Good evening and welcome to the Minions of the Zoo. I'm your host and keeper, the Harry Channel, and with me tonight are minions DrFunctional.
Hi.
Serenity Star 13. Woof.
Dog.
Woof. Okay. And SkepTock.
Hi, everybody.
Wow. Okay. So I've been trying to decide what I want to do with the show, and I mean, it just keeps evolving over time. I had this thought in my mind about coming up with a monologue, so I've sort of been opening with a bit, like talking about Fong Fong. Fong Fong remains just as cantankerous as ever. She's rather difficult to deal with, but I'm not sure there's enough of Fong Fong going around to make a full story out of it. I was trying to get prepped before the show, and I bought this new keyboard, and it's supposed to be super fancy. It's supposed to make my life really easy with like layers and shortcuts and programmability and open source firmware and all this sort of stuff. And this freaking thing, it took me a month to have it show up. Plug it in, get ready to do the show. Keyboard doesn't work. This is exactly what you want to do, is try to start the show with new equipment and then find out it doesn't work. So sorry for being a few minutes late. And I'm really sorry for what you're about to hear tonight, because here's my keyboard with its blue switches. This is my backup keyboard, and it is a mechanical, super clicky, annoying keyboard. This is the keyboard you use when you want your coworkers to leave you alone.
So you bought the expensive keyboard with the loud keys?
No, I bought the expensive keyboard with the medium keys. And since it doesn't work, I'm using the old keyboard with these super loud keys. The clacky, tinny, blue, cherry MX keys.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's the suck. How was your day, Skep?
It's been a good day. We had a nice stream with Functional, Blind Press, and Hammer today. And talked about the various alien races of the Star Trek canon. And it's been kind of a mellow day. It got up to about 30 degrees here in Texas, and 30 freedom degrees. And it is, I'm just not made for this level of cold anymore. And I know the Canadians are laughing at me. Look, I'm a Michigan and Washington State, Eastern Washington State, up in the mountains veteran. Don't even start with me. But I have lived down here long enough where I cannot handle the cold weather anymore. Just can't do it.
Oh yeah. Oh, Fong Fong has actually started to fail. I forgot about that part.
Elwin is asking who is Fong.
I sent a note. It's my $28 Chinese Bluetooth headset. So it was actually working reasonably well, but I mean, I've had it for just a few weeks, right? I mean, if that, I mean, I've hardly used this thing. And already it's at the point where it will only charge with specific cables. Like if I take the cable that charges my phone, it goes, no. Fong Fong will have none of this. I have to basically use this other cable and then run it through an adapter, and that seems to magically make it happy with the power that's coming in. I don't know. I don't care. You're a $28 experiment, and I can't wait for it to die. As long as it doesn't burst into flames, I'm going to be happy.
Yeah, I was just going to say, have you thought about ritually burning it and getting a new headset?
Yeah.
Sprinkling it with holy water?
Usually things with batteries like this pretty much take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Hey, Serenity, how you doing?
I'm good.
Your dogs decided to act up?
Well, there's a housing development somewhere, and someone moved in, and they have a gigantic golden labradoodle that they let loose sometimes, or he gets loose. I don't know, but he will proceed to run in front of my house because he's not stupid enough to run behind the house, because he knows he'd get jumped, and go woo, 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 and just bark, and he'll just stand in the road and just bark.
Okay, people need to stop mixing things with poodles. Poodles are fine. Standard poodles are fine dogs. I get that there are people who have allergy problems who like a labradoodle. I understand what it's good for. But I heard today that somebody, a friend of mine, went to a dog park and he ran into a Newfidoodle. It was a Newfoundland Terrier and poodle mix.
Why?
Yes, exactly. Why? You
Poodles
people
are already
need to
water
just
dogs. Why do you need to make them
stop.
water?
Stop mixing poodle with other things that it doesn't need to mix with.
Well, like, if you need a hyperallergenic dog, just get a giant poodle. Like, just have them have an all over cut.
I know, a standard.
If you're going to do it, have some imagination. I want to see a basset doodle.
No, you don't.
I have
No.
seen a husky corgi mix though. Those are interesting.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but those bite the shit out of you.
No.
Yeah, but they can't run very fast, so you can catch their butts and get.
Corgis are biters.
Yeah,
my
they are.
favorite mix is GSP plus pretty much anything. I love a GSP, but can't quite handle the full strength GSP experience all the time. So just
most of our dogs are either some kind of terrier.
Oh, sorry,
usually
German
a-
short hair pointer. Sorry, I'm talking in jargon. Go ahead.
Are usually some kind of terrier mixed with some other West Virginia backwater dog. Labrador mixed with something else, or they're air quotes. I use this term loosely because I know it's overused. Pit bull,
Mhm.
which also can mean the Johnson type American bulldog, which no one has a fucking clue what that means if they don't live in the country.
Does everybody
So-
know what a pit bull is? Pit bull is not, or at least was not. That may have just changed the last few years. Recognized as a breed by the AKC.
Yeah,
A pit bull is commonly the result of breeding either an American Staffordshire Bull Terrier with a British Staffordshire Bull Terrier, or a British Bull Terrier with an American Staffordshire, or a British Staffordshire Terrier with a British Bull Terrier.
yeah.
Those are the ways those are the, high, cardinal rules of, getting the correct, a true pit bull. That's how you do that. Breeding it back in with a bulldog for jaw strength and stuff like that. They do that, but those are not the key components into that. That they do all kinds of genetic trickery to make them stronger, faster, bite harder. Especially in the fighting industry down. Yeah, unfortunately, it's very popular in Texas.
Mhm.
And the guys who arrange these dog fights, they probably clear $250,000 a month.
Oh yeah, I'm not surprised. But
Big business. It's really sad. One of the dogs that my stepdaughter has is a Rhodesian Ridgeback who was a rescue from a fight thing, complete with the tail that was lopped off with an axe. Yeah,
sadly it happens. It's one of those. It's like we've had Cane Corsos who have been in fighting.
Not when it was a puppy.
Yeah,
Not when
no.
when it was a grown dog. They cut it off with an axe.
Oh yeah.
Bull Terrier plus Poodle is Boodle?
Yeah.
Anyway,
There's also a Dashoodle, which I've actually seen.
Okay,
seen where they
stop.
yeah, that's
Hey, Functional, how was your non-dog filled day?
It was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm heavily medicated right now. I'm tired. I had a late last night. Drank a
that's
little.
a good idea. I'm gonna have some.
I'm not a drinker.
No, I understand. Well, I was looking at the news and trying to not have it be too terrible. As I just sort of get into all this stuff, and like I mean, there's some good stuff and there's some bad stuff, and it's all mixed together. And I'll try not to let it get too dark today. But the very first thing that I sort of ran into was this. There was a thing on The Hill Rising where they were talking about Hispanic students hating critical race theory classes they were forced to be put through. And I'm like, really? I need to hear about this. So
at least it hasn't come to Salinas, California, Harry.
that's exactly where it is. It is in
no.
Central California, just a little distance from Spreckles, California, where we were previously talking about
Yes.
about what they were doing with the gender happy club, trying to convince this kid to transition and then calling the police on the parents and all that fun stuff. So just a short 10-mile jaunt from where that happened. Actually, it's on the other side of Salinas, so I think it's maybe 15 miles. Is this high school where they've been pushing this critical race theory stuff, and I was reading into it. The district has just been going along with it. Now, they're not calling it critical race theory, but of course, a teacher looked into it when all the classes are online, and sure enough, that's what it is. And I think back to Shaniqua, which was the thing that was happening, was it August of 2021? We talked about Shaniqua.
Refresh us.
I am refreshing you. California high school students under investigation after videos emerge of them posing, stomping a black baby doll named Shaniqua.
Okay.
Yes.
This is a long time.
So same high school district. So I think it's all starting to make a weird kind of sense because apparently the Hispanic students in particular, the ESL students, thought that the critical race theory stuff was just incomprehensible bullshit. And they're not wrong. They were absolutely hating it. And
they wanted their health course back that it replaced.
Yeah, they wanted the health course back that it replaced. So I think if they're trying to feed that kind of stuff to them, I think this whole Shaniqua controversy makes a lot more sense. Oh, wait, why am I not making this larger? Sorry about that, folks. So there's Shaniqua, the little black doll with the heavy makeup and the ankle monitor on it.
Yeah.
And they passed around the school.
Jesus.
This seems like understandable reactance now that I find out what they've been doing to these poor kids. Because if you're trying to learn English as your second language and you're already Hispanic, being forced to go through a class that's designed to make white people feel shitty about themselves seems like a poor use of your time. Go ahead, Serenity.
Well, I mean, especially when you take into consideration that depending on the circumstance and what side the person of the Latino or Hispanic descent stands on, they're sometimes considered white, they're sometimes considered not white.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're kind of in a way worse off than Asians are, because the Asians, at least for the most part, are considered white most of the time. They're only touted out when they're needed, and then the minute they start to get uppity, they get shoved back in the white box. So it's like, I don't blame them for being pissy, because it's kind of like, you don't, like, you're 13% of the population. We outnumber you. F you. That would be my logic if I was of Latino or Hispanic descent.
Oh, Geodes is in the chat. Thank you for posting that. I'll stop trying to post links if I've got you back. Yeah, thank you, sir. Okay. So, I don't know if there's anything to say about this, just that it's not surprising that they're putting CRT stuff in the schools and lying about it. They're saying it's not there, but it's the slides are available if anybody wants to. I put the link to the Hill thing is there. We don't need to go over all of it. They do a pretty good job on it. So if you're interested, check it out. Then this happened. And actually, the Lotus Eaters did a pretty good job talking about this thing. State Department spokesman Ned Price absent it's after he got shredded by AP reporter. So an AP actually, do you guys want to introduce this? Say what happened, because it's fun.
Well, what happened was this piece of garbage came out and tried to absolutely bullshit the entire press corps by saying, well, I'm disclosing the information to you right now. And all he did was say it was existed. And the reporter called him on and said, you haven't shown us that. You haven't given us any proof. You haven't shown us anything at all. You just said,
bro, trust me.
Yeah.
Just trust me, bro.
Yeah, this is the proof right here. Me telling you. It's like, no, that's not how it works. And this reporter actually did his job. I'm stunned.
Yeah.
Good job, AP.
What's the funny thing is, if you read their back and forth, like he tries to do it several times and say, I've given you the proof. And the reporter's like, no, you haven't. You've only stated that there's the possibility of maybe this existing, not whether it actually exists, and you don't have any physical proof to actually show us.
It was almost like Monty Python-esque.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, I have the proof right here. I've given you the proof. You've given me no proof. That's not proof. It's an assertion.
You thinking of the cheese shop sketch?
Yeah, it was like or that parrot's not dead, or any number of other absurd things that are absurd on their face. And the guy just sat up there and maintained it to the reporter. The reporter was just like, there was contempt in his voice. There really was.
Well, the reporter was a more experienced guy, and it wasn't that long ago that this self-same person was assuring us that Kabul wasn't going to fall the second we started pulling our troops out of Afghanistan.
One thing in back of all of this is that these two guys have known each other and have been fairly friendly for many years.
Hmm.
So that's there is a little bit of a backstory, but evidently this guy just really got frustrated with this government weasel.
Which-
Mhm.
Question: the reporter, who does he work for?
AP.
The
Oh,
Associated
okay,
Press.
okay, AP. Because I was like, so does he work for like? Because I was like, if it was a CNN reporter, I'd be like, oh, he's just trying to maybe keep his job.
Yeah, that's
So I'm
what
finally
makes
switching back.
that's what adds to the deliciousness is there's an AP reporter, and I mean, like they're hit or miss, but they're generally not considered too far left or too far right.
Yeah,
They tend to
A-
try
AP
to in a lot of cases.
AP definitely slants its news, in my opinion.
They
it does,
used
but
to
they're
be
not
much
as bad
better.
as- yeah, they're not as
It's-
bad as some.
It's fairly recent. AP used to be reliable-ish.
They have
Yeah.
And
cratered in the last
They've
2.5,
skewed
3
very
years.
left. Yeah, in the last 2.5-3 years. Let's say Reuters is kind of hanging in there a little bit.
Yeah, I think the
But
Jeff
Semi
Bezos
depends
are
on
pretty
depends
good.
on the reporter with Reuters.
But here's the claim that was made. One possible option the Russians are considering, and which we made public today, involves the production of a propaganda video, a video with graphic scenes of false explosions, depicting corpses, crisis actors pretending to be mourners, and images of destroyed locations or military equipment entirely fabricated by Russian intelligence. The lying weasel said, yeah, this is what he claimed. And so the reporter said, you got any proof of that? He's like, well, we declassified the information, and that's what I'm giving to you now.
Yeah, that's
No,
the
proof.
That's your proof.
Not you telling me. Well, me telling you is the proof. No,
I
it's
told
not.
you we declassified it. Therefore, I proved it.
That's an
And
accusation.
then he proceeded to essentially question the reporter's loyalty as an American, saying, "Are you sure you're not on Russia's side, asking me the questions that you're asking me? Because your government, it's
That
just so
was
sad
so
that you don't
unprofessional.
trust your government. It's like,
Now you will.
excuse me, I still remember Watergate, you asshole." And I think Matt Lee might as well. He's a kind of a senior guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, screw
I
these
remember
people.
Democratic convention in '68 for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things. Like, one, Russia's pulled this shit before, so we all know that they're going to do something that tries to make it look like we had no choice.
Well,
Like,
we
you
know
just
they're
had to get
capable of it, but
Yeah.
but there's no proof that this is a thing that's going to
Oh
happen.
yeah, no, the most recent thing, but they like did something similar when they invaded Georgia and stuff like that. So it's one of those things like they've done similar things, so we know that's a possibility. But you can't just make accusations. I don't give a dang who it's against. You can't just make accusations.
Are you
have to have proof.
familiar with Lewis Black?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So Lewis Black, when talking about the Iraq War II electric boogaloo, was I think the skit goes something like, I know you're going to lie to me, but if you're going to do it, at least do it convincingly. Don't
Yeah.
take my convincing me for granted. So if you're going to lie to me, at least do a good job. So when Colin Powell came out and said, "Oh, well, here's pictures of this is where the puppy killing vans are, and this is where this is, and this is where the rape rooms are," and he had pictures, right? They're grainy pictures, but they're still pictures. So at least you got the sense that Colin Powell had some kind of proof of something. This guy's just kind of like, trust me. If you're not a simp for the Russians, you're just going to trust me.
Trust me, bro. Trust
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. What's wrong with you? Why don't you trust me? It's like, come on, Charlie Brown, kick the football. It's going to be fine. Just kick the
Yeah.
football. I'm not going to pull the football this
This
time.
time will be different.
This time it'll be totally different.
But it's like it's this is another highlight in a weird, not a weird way, but this is another highlight of how much crap those who were in the Trump administration took on a day-to-day basis and still came out and did their job. And then you look at the people who were under Biden and they're like, I got talked back to. I have to go hide now. Like, how much crap did McEnany take all the time? And she
Candace
still
Keyboard
came
is
out.
allowed.
I know, but it's one of those things where it's kind of like, I kind of respect them. This makes me respect them a little bit more, because being able to take crap and still come out and do your job can take a lot on mental
Yeah.
stuff. But this guy's like, that's so cowardly. But I mean, what am I saying? Yeah,
Yeah.
then tired.
His job is to
Stop.
lie to people and make it sound convincing.
Yeah, too bad he's bad at it.
Well, okay, because this is basically your government work. I'm just going to put a little palate cleanser in here. take a look at this. Look at this video. Have you guys seen this?
I've seen stuff like this, but I know what's going to happen.
Look at this. Look at this
Okay,
guy.
face diaper.
Face diaper, check. Walk out.
And take the face
Podium.
diaper.
Take off face diaper. Thanks, DOJ. That was great.
Oh, he's a neckbeard. I'm sorry.
Yeah. We totally believe you, asshole.
Well, it's like, how many people, and no matter the political affiliation, have been caught doing the exact same thing? It's like there's so
It's
many
not
of them.
political theater. You
Why
trust
doesn't
me? I am
someone
the
count-
science. It's not political theater.
Sorry, Skep?
I was going to say, why doesn't someone counsel him about his appearance?
Yeah.
You mean the guy with the beard?
Yeah, seriously.
He thinks his mom told him it looks nice.
He's too busy
Yeah.
defending the country, Skep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Honk
functional, while we've got you here, Freedom Con
honk.
from Onkistan. So GoFundMe decided to be cowardly and not
Glorious
and to
People's
basically seize
Republic
the
of
funds.
Kazakhstan.
And Serenity was telling me that they're giving the funds back to the people who donated. I mean,
They
that's the
were-
very least they can.
They were originally, what they were going to do was they were going to give people a time period to apply to have their money back. And if they didn't apply within that certain amount of time period, I think it was 7 to 10 days, then the money would go to a charity that GoFundMe picked. Then DeSantis and Skep will know who I'm talking about. Texas's AG, state of Texas's AG, threatened to an investigation. So then GoFundMe was like, all right, no, we'll just fully refund. It'll take 7 to 10 days. Leave us alone.
Mhm.
And then now,
Paxton.
thank you.
I had to look it up. I forgot his name.
I was like, I knew it started with a P, but I didn't want to butcher it.
Well, that's a guy, when he does his job well, you usually don't have to know his name.
Thank
Yeah.
God. If anyone, if anybody in our chat wants to give money, they are now going through a Christian fundraising one. That's Give, Send, Go, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Give, Send,
Yeah,
Go.
give, send, go.
And the site, there's been rumors that it's been hit with DDoS. As someone who's dealt
It
with
was
DDoS
just
for
really
time,
slow. I watched
Yeah.
a couple of guys going through it, and it just looks slow. You're getting some connection errors where you're getting some timeouts, but I think that they just did not have sufficient capacity planning. I don't
Well,
know
at
if they're
least-
running their own servers or what, but
that's probably the only way they can do what they're doing, I would assume, considering how some of these things are. But last time I checked, they were at almost $2 million. And from what I can tell, it allows you to give anonymously if you wish to give anonymously. So I'm just giving a heads up for everybody if they want to give money.
Yeah,
Let's
that-
not forget
that-
it. Oh, go ahead, Skep.
I was going to say that's the thing about this is that how long is GoFundMe going to survive doing this kind of crap? They're doing everything but publicly embezzling money. When you take money in trust for a person, you're doing some of the same things that a bank does. And you have an obligation to be a good steward of the money entrusted to you. You can't just take that money and say, you know what? Something else has happened, and now we're just going to give that money that has been entrusted to us. We're going to give it away. We're going to give it away to something else for which it was not entrusted to us, but something that we just believe is a good thing. And we're going to take your money away from you and give it to these other people because something about the thing that you wanted to give the money to has offended us. That is nearly embezzlement. That is just barely legal by the most technical aspect, and I think has got to be a fertile legal area for a lawsuit.
And you hit the nail on the head with what I wanted to say, in that it's because it offended them. They admitted in their weaselly little public release statements that they didn't run afoul these charities to help fund these guys, taking time off work. They need to eat. They need to. People want to support a movement of working class people, and They didn't run afoul of any of the rules.
But
They just were offended at the cause and decided that they were going to do this.
But did you hear what they charged them with? They charged them with fomenting an occupation. They used the word occupation. That this was the equivalent of what happened when those people on January 6th of 2021, when those people took over the United States in something that actually had more fatalities than the Civil War, which was the assault on Washington tragic. On January 6th. More Americans killed that day than in the entire Civil War.
Than Pearl Harbor.
400,000 people killed.
So many.
That day. Because belief is a choice.
You put hyperbole on your hyperbole. That's good.
No, Jussie Smollett taught me the way to really truth.
Yeah.
And I'm truthing truth now.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it's more like the Chaz or the Chop, right? So the Chaz and the Chop. Remember the Chaz?
Yeah.
I wonder, did they have any kind of progressive fundraising thing associated with them?
Exactly, but those were not offensive to the powers that be. What about the fact that the Black Lives Matter people apparently have embezzled tens of millions of dollars from that group, like $33 million just vanished.
And don't forget, a lot of that money came from the Democratic Party.
It came from a lot of places and passed through a lot of hands.
Yeah, but my point is,
none of it came from me. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Functional. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, you have a literal political party funding riots and protests and whatnot, and it's and a group of, again, working class people that apparently, certain people love to just lament and praise and everything. Even our own prime minister 2 months ago was like, they're the lifeblood of Canada. They're so needed. And then now it's these people are all white nationalist terrorists, and I gotta flee the country. And
well, not all Democrats are like that. Hashtag not all, because the new Democrat mayor of New York City is nothing like that, right? Right.
Well,
see.
He has changed his mind about breaking and entering.
What? It's okay now?
No, it was okay, and today it became not okay. It's now a felony again.
Oh, good.
Oh, thank goodness he finally did his job. Or someone else did their job.
Not to a residence, to a commercial building. But if you break and enter and steal things from a person, just their home, even if you point a gun at them, as long as you don't injure them with the gun, that's a misdemeanor still.
Well, he's decided to take his personal religion of being a vegan and foist it off on the school kids. We've talked about school lunches in the past. He's going after the most important things. New York City's public schools observed their first Vegan Friday, doubling the number of meatless days in cafeterias under the stewardship of vegan New York City Mayor Eric Adams. I'm starting to trust and like this guy less and less every day.
Yeah. Is this forced or is this optional?
No. It's actually optional. You have to ask for not shitty food. Now, I've read through, if you read all the way through this article, it says that the stuff's still available. You can ask for meat, but what they're sort of like pushing up front and center and making you, like, your default choice is going to be not meat. Now, if it was Catholic and he was saying we're going to have meatless Fridays, can you imagine what the uproar would be? But since he's part of the vegan religion, it's totally okay.
Oh, no kidding.
You can't even get a decent merit on that in that school district. I mean, do you remember the meat carrot from Arby's?
Hey man, I'd still take merit.
I still dream of that thing.
Boy, that's
amazing.
Unpleasant.
Well, I feel bad for these kids because, who wants to? I've seen vegan. We all saw the chicken nuggets that are literally gray in the middle. And we all know school food is never the good vegan is never good, the good food. It's always like the subpar food. So what's subpar vegan food look
No,
like?
feed them the vegetables. I don't have a problem with offering them.
Oh, yeah,
In fact, they should
vegetables.
always have vegetarian options for these things, and they always do. You can get, peanut
Yeah.
butter and jelly sandwich. They always have something vegetarian.
Or
You're
you
saying
can
plant-
not eat the meat. You could do that. You could get a regular lunch and not eat the meat.
Plant-based options in
What?
schools mean healthy eating and healthy living, and improve the quality of life for thousands of New York City students, Adams said, according to
Yeah,
ABC7. Plant-based
Yes.
meals are delicious and nutritious, which is why I have to push so hard to convince you
And
that they're
low in
delicious and
vitamins.
nutritious.
No, they're
I'm
not.
Low
thrilled
in
to see that all
vitamins,
students
low
will
in
now have
protein.
access to healthy foods that will prevent debilitating health conditions.
Missing 2 of the vital amino acids you need every day for healthy
Other
blood
food
and bones.
items, including meat options, will still be given upon request, and milk is available to comply with federal guidelines.
Good.
Vegan options such as hummus, pretzels, and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are still offered daily for vegan and vegetarian students. Yuck. I mean, it's one of these things where it isn't necessarily the wrong thing to do, but he's doing it for completely the wrong reasons. He's just being a true believer and kind of an idiot and messing around with what people eat because of it.
Well, I mean, let's take this. It's if you're an athlete who's plant-based, which they exist, like there was a famous wrestler who was plant-based, that's fine. But like these kids, you usually have like protein powders or something to supplement the lack of protein. And even if you do eat meat, you still have protein powders. What about these kids who play basketball or football or any of that kind of stuff? Because like I know at least around here in West Virginia, like Fridays were practices for football and band during the summer. My God. But it's like you're taking.
You cannot be a top competitive athlete in any
Camel.
way and be a vegan. Look at all the vegan Olympic athletes. There aren't. You'll never find one.
Oh, I know. I'm just talking about there was a WWE wrestler who was plant-based for a while, and he's like the only one I know of. But still, it's one of those things where it's kind of like
I'm talking about actual athletes, though, and people who have to be better than other people on a purely athletic basis.
They're still like he was pretty athletic. But anyway, getting off topic. But it's one of those
And
things.
he did say he was vegan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where it's kind of like you're like screwing these kids out of because like back when I was in high school, which was more than 20 years ago, we had a salad bar line and you could take it. So it's like there was ways to do it, but it should always be an option. It should never be forced.
The stuff that food eats?
Yes.
If you want people to develop good habits, they need to sort of come to it voluntarily. If you force them to do it and they start associating in their mind vegan food with being forced to eat crap they don't want to eat, what you're doing is producing lifelong carnivores. You're not converting anybody to veganism this way.
Those are potential Republicans.
Those are.
Well, it's one of those things like it's like almost everything. Like it needs to be a choice. Like kids at my school went through the salad bar because you could also get gigantic baked potatoes. But it's one of those things like and God, I didn't want to eat the mystery meat. But it's like when you start forcing stuff, you're going to get rebellion. Like we saw with the very first story, where those kids were starting of Hispanic or Latino descent were rebelling. They're just going to go harder the other direction.
Yeah, it's called reactance. It's a psychological thing. It's well documented. You can look it up.
Yep.
It's not just our opinion. It's not like we think this is a thing. No, this is a thing that happens. It's called reactance. Look it up. It's a real thing. And God knows I have plenty of it. I've learned the hard way not to listen to people. When you push me, I push back pretty hard.
Do you think Halo has had enough money?
Halo Master Chief to take backseat to female cast in Halo live action 2022. It's yet another franchise. I don't know how many people saw The Witcher. I thought season 1 was quite good, but season 2, it feels like they spent about, 50% or more of the time dealing with extra storylines associated with female characters that were not the main character. It's like, I wonder when we're going to get back to Henry Cavill. I know it'll happen eventually because his name's on the freaking titles. But they just spent a lot of time going, hey, there's the one with the red hair. Oh, there's the black one. There's the one with the brown hair. Hey, they're all off doing things, being strong and wonderful.
In fairness, and I have read every book in that series, there are a shit ton of female characters in that story. And I thought about this when I was reading about this, because I thought, as you go through, because they're dealing with an association of primarily female witches, you know how it's become hit for everybody to have a B'nai Gesserit kind of organization of women with spectacular powers. Wheel of Time did that. Jordan did that in Wheel of Time. And you have something like that in Witcher, which is this association of magical witches, which is dominated by some truly hideous personalities that are brilliantly written in the books. And I have to kind of stick up for them a little bit here. In fairness, when I was reading the books, I kind of felt the same way. When are we going to get back to Witchers doing Witcher things? And you spend a lot of time with these other women and their exploits. They sail around. They meet all kinds of monsters. They get involved in all kinds of intrigue that only peripherally involve the Witcher. There is a part of the book, a fairly long part of the book, where the Witcher is he's not a bit player, but he only plays around the edges.
Lovely. Well, Master Chief in the Halo games, which I haven't played, but I mean, I've been around. It's part of our culture now, right? So everybody knows about Master Chief. Even idiots like me know about Master Chief.
Even I do.
Yeah. So Paramount revealed the teaser trailer for their upcoming Halo live-action series, and it looks like the show is getting the Star Wars reboot makeover with a cast of powerful women, female protagonist and villain. So what will Master Chief's role be? Yeah, so they've basically got ridiculous stuff where one of the Mary Sues gets into a fight with Master Chief, just a demonstration, and handily beats him. Because we all know Master Chief is just, he goes down really easily.
Yeah.
He can hardly take a beating at all.
No, exactly. He's not up
jumped
against monsters all the time.
An exploding cruiser into an atmosphere of a planet, crash lands, and survives. I don't think some woman is going to know. And he is exactly what makes the entire Halo franchise. It is that Paramount character. Sort of use the pun, but he really is. It's all about him. Without him, that character, that sort of stoic, just badass, it really makes Halo empty, vapid clone of every other sort of fighting war genre.
Yeah, first-person shooter. Yeah.
First-person shooters, yeah. Like there would be nothing to differentiate.
Distinguish. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the distinctive character.
Yeah.
And just like what you were saying with Witcher, to juxtapose that, this seems like, from what I've seen and read, that it's such a departure from the source material, and it's one of those things that we have been hammered with so much, so over the top. Like I could go through the list of Ghostbusters, Star Wars, blah 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 blah, where they try to force this, and it doesn't work for anybody. Even the people who love seeing this kind of stuff don't go see that movie 6-7 times.
Well, set the TV series aside. Did you see the movie Hannah, the one with Kate Blanchett and the blonde girl and stuff? I liked that movie. I mean, it's okay if you don't like it, but I thought it was well done, and it was believable because of the way it was set up, as opposed to Atomic Blonde, where 105-pound Charlize Theron is kicking men that weigh 3 times her weight, and they're just launching. They're just launching like they're all on wires with rocket assist to make her puny little tiny pumps move them, and it's just ridiculous. But it breaks the immersion when you have things that are like this. And if you know this much about Halo, and you're basically now saying this Quan Ah is described as a shrewd, audacious 16-year-old from the outer colonies. She's a bit of a space scavenger.
Warrior girl,
and has an incredible power inside her, which we'll slowly discover throughout the series. Yeah, that sounds great. Very, very innovative, very brave. So we take Master Chief and we make him a bit player in Halo. Perfect. I hope nobody watches this crap. I hope Paramount spends a ton of money on it and it just bombs like STD.
They can, they will, and they'll learn.
Eventually.
That's one thing about capitalist-based companies. When they make a mistake, if they survive, they never make that mistake again. Largely.
Yeah, I think it might take a while. They're much more concerned with being good people than they are being good business people.
Yeah.
That can't last forever because they have a fiduciary responsibility.
Yeah, when the capital account guys come up with their briefcases and their grim faces, they'll head back to the cash cows.
I say more Master Chief, more Conans, less Mary Sue's.
Yeah. Well, moving on to the next thing. Actually was thinking about how people keep making incredibly poor choices all the time. Because we're always surrounded with just sort of bullshit. Whether we're talking about, vaccines or chin diapers or policy of all sorts of different things. Everybody has their explanations about different types of things. And so I was thinking about the critical thinking lessons that nobody's getting these days in school and thinking, well, what about one part of it, one little corner of it? And my favorite part of it has got to be Occam's razor. And I'm taking Carl Sagan's formulation of it just to keep it informal, because I don't want this to turn into a philosophy debate. But generally, the way it's stated is, when faced with two hypotheses that explain the data equally well, and that's the part people seem to forget about. They just go, oh, the simple one is the right one. No. You have two explanations for something, and they both explain things as well as each other. The simpler one is the one you're supposed to prefer. Now,
that was not what Occam actually
I know.
said,
I understand that.
there.
This is sort of a simple, applicable, modern day sort of way of kind of looking at Occam's razor.
Okay.
The reason I bring this up is because there's a part of me that sort of rebels against this kind of thinking, because you don't, if you hear the hooves of horses, right, and then you just assume it's horses, is it really such a bad thing to occasionally look for a zebra hiding amongst all the horse hooves? I think Serenity brought this up. You were talking about in medicine. There was some.
It's more of what the chronic illness community uses when they talk about, like, sometimes not getting diagnosed properly. They'll sit there and say people hear hooves and this automatically assumes it's a horse instead of looking for the zebra.
You're talking like fibromyalgia groups and that kind of stuff.
Well, like Eller's disease, I think is what it is, where they like have too much inflammation between the joints and it makes them double jointed, but it also makes them in chronic pain because they're always kind of like that kind of stuff. It can show as something else if someone doesn't dig deeper, but if the doctors dig deeper, they find what it actually is. I think some people in the PCOS community also say that too, but like that's kind of what they're getting at, is that people sometimes are too quick to take the easy way out and not look deeper just because, well, this is what it looks like, so we're just going to go with that, instead of maybe going, maybe we should try 2 more tests just to double check, that kind of stuff.
Well, hypothetically speaking, if a mystery virus showed up that nobody had experienced before, some sort of novel virus, and it showed up close to a lab that researches those kinds of viruses, and people were telling you, oh no, you're a terrible racist for assuming that it escaped from the lab. It could have come from anywhere. In fact, even suggesting such a thing is terrible. It's like, this is what I'm always talking about what should I believe, my lying eyes or what these people tell me. They come up with these huge constructions of logic, this huge scaffolding of bullshit upon which they try to explain away whatever inconvenient thing is there. But if you just think of Occam's razor, you go, I don't know, I'm feeling pretty good about the simple explanation where somebody got something on their shoe when they walked out of the lab.
Yeah.
It's just basic kind of critical thinking. And, Skep will tell you, when he was in school, you learned this stuff. This is just stuff that you learned. And now they're
Yes.
canceling it for, oh, don't think about it too much. This is just what the truth is. You're bad because of the color of your skin. These people are good because of the color of their skin. And just listen and believe.
And don't examine those, and don't attempt to deconstruct them. Don't attempt to apply Aristotelian logic or a Socratic analysis to them. Forget all that stuff. Isaac Newton more or less restated William of Occam's idea as the first rule of philosophical reasoning in the Principia Mathematica. I looked at this quote. He said, "We are to admit no more causes of natural things than such as are both true and sufficient to explain their appearances." Now compare that. Okay, so don't include causes of natural things other than the ones that directly explain the appearance of the phenomenon. Compare that with what William actually wrote, which was, "It is futile to do with more what can be done with fewer," which is a much more philosophical and much more general statement, really. The application that of simplicity to correctness of theory is actually, to me, it's a good default place to start, but don't let it keep you. Don't make the mistake of equating simplicity with validity. Sometimes the complicated theories are right, but generally, when you look at what the projection was, for example, going from Ptolemy's epicycles, which were these strange paths that had circles within circles within circles within circles. As falling over, it had so many epicycles trying to explain the relative motion of the planets in a geocentric universe. So Copernicus comes along and says, no, it's heliocentric universe, but he didn't eliminate the epicycles. He just simplified them. And this is one of those things where the simpler explanation was closer to the truth. The epicycles didn't really vanish until Brahe's collaboration with what's his name, the mathematician who I can't remember his name, who Kepler, who came up, thank you, with the.
Well, it's funny that most people know Kepler and forget Brahe, and you did it the other way around.
I know.
That's a first.
Yeah, it's just watch old Skep's mind
you
go
did
here.
the obscure one first and then forgot the famous guy.
Yeah, exactly. And I even spared you my joke. Tycho Brahe did not die in vain. See, he had an observatory on the island of Fane, but he died at a banquet, so he didn't die in vain. See what it did? See how that was my astronomy prof's favorite joke freshman year at Northwestern. Anyway,
and we all need to get out more.
I'm so sorry. Anyway, getting back to this. So there is a phony equivocation between simplicity and validity that can creep in. But by and large, if an explanation is becoming richer and better as it becomes simpler, that is almost always a winning trend, in my opinion.
Well, it's the equally well part that I think is really useful, because going back to medicine, if you're doing a differential diagnosis, if you're pretending that you're House from House MD,
yeah,
and you're looking at some weird set of symptoms that come in, you would prefer the one obscure disease that explains everything as an explanation to assuming that somebody has 4 separate, completely disjoint diseases at the same time that cover the same thing. Why? Well, because the odds that you have one obscure disease versus this weird combination of things, which are themselves somewhat rare, is more logical, right? It's certainly more elegant. The problem with this formulation of Occam's razor is simple. What does simple mean to you? Now, if you you know, are a religious person and you walk outside and you look at things and you just kind of look at the sun and go, well, God did that. And then, you know, look at a rabbit and God did that. And everything's just God did it. You might think that that's a simple answer. But to somebody who's a physicist who sees everything as complicated and a bunch of equations and thermodynamics and all this sort of stuff, the idea of like a deity existing before the universe was created is so much more complicated by comparison, that one person's simple is another person's complicated. So the flaw with Occam's razor is the idea of simplicity, because simplicity is in itself kind of subjective. You know, there's that's the part where things get really squiggly. Anyway, I don't want to beat this topic to death. It's just, I think that there needs to be a renaissance of critical thinking, and it can't happen soon enough as far as I'm concerned.
You know, it makes me wonder, do you remember back in the 19th century, the big brouhaha when Kemp tried to prove the four-color theorem and he got it wrong, but math thought he got it right for like 15 years. And then about 1900, what's his face, Haywood or whatever his name was, came around with the actual four-color theorem proof.
No,
I remember that.
I
I
don't.
remember that when that happened. That was a big brouhaha, and that was a thing where Kemp's proof of the four-color theorem was much more complicated than the proposed proofs, than the other proofs that people had poked holes in. It was very complicated. And the actual proof of the four-color theorem is much, much more complicated than Kemp's flawed proof. So that's an example of one where everything went backwards. Everything had to get more and more complicated before they could get to a proof of what's called the four-color theorem.
Well, let's not talk about de Broglie waves versus quantum theory. Let's not do that.
Take that offline.
All right. So during the last show, I used the word acclimatize, and one of you guys in chat decided to say that's not a word. Yes, it is.
Oh Lord.
Who says it's not a word?
Somebody said it wasn't a word, and I'm like, yes, it is. Now, I will say this: it wasn't really the right word for the occasion. It was a grammatical problem. It was a dictionary. It wasn't terrible, but it was really not the right word to use. I said acclimatize, and I shouldn't have. But yes, it is a word. Here it is. Here's the definition. Next. Okay. Another thing is I brought up on your show, I believe it was, the whole idea of Kamala Harris becoming the Supreme Court justice, because to my mind, it's just like, what opportunity is Biden going to get that's better than this to basically get rid of the Kamala Harris problem? Now,
Well, I mean, there's one way to better do it, but
no.
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying that politically, there's no downside to him going ahead and doing this, because what her option is, she can be the first black woman Supreme Court justice and screw things up for decades, or she can be president for like a year until she gets voted out of office. I mean, those are kind of her choices.
You know, if she really loved her party more than herself, she would resign and just shut up. That's the best thing she can do for the Democrats right now. At some point, somebody needs to walk up to her and tell her that, and that it's looking bad that she's not thinking of that herself and trying to help their ticket. Because if one of two things is going to happen. Either Biden is going to run or Biden's not going to run. Both of those scenarios are terrible for the Democrats with Kamala in the picture, because if you don't elevate her to the top job, the wokesters are going to ask why not. You better have Stacey Abrams in there, and she can't win. But I'm dead serious about this.
Oh, I know you are.
You better have a qualifying disenfranchised group member to take Kamala Harris's place, and you got to have some place to stick her because she's going to be a shit about this. She's not going to leave. She's not going to be a good member of the Democratic Party. She can't see anything larger than herself. That's a big problem with this administration. Period. That's Joe Biden is abusing the presidency for his own enrichment. He's giving the country away in the process. And these people cannot think beyond themselves. They're utterly selfish people. And, you get the same thing on the Republican side. Don't get me wrong. Politicians are going to politician. But this selfishness on Kamala Harris's part could cost them the whole shooting match here.
It's a good deal for her. I mean, honestly, it would be a great, because she's going from the possibility of being president for a while to the possibility of becoming and of going down in the history books and having influence. Basically she's set for life. Yep. She becomes a big deal forever. At least until she's ready to, until she passes away or decides to retire. It's a good gig for her. And I just don't, I mean, a lot of you guys, I think, thought I was kidding when I brought this up, and I really was about 80% serious. And so when I saw this happening on the Hill a couple days ago, and I was thinking, man, I wasn't that far off, because other people seem to see this too. And I guess this is something that there's chatter about. There are Democrats actually thinking this isn't such a bad idea. It's nice to know they listen to me when I'm on your show. Because I was the first person I know of to actually say this.
No.
Well, the thing is, it depends on whether or not they listen to the poll numbers, because the poll numbers don't want someone in the position based on gender or skin color. They want it based on actual merit. I think it was 76% of people polled. That's what they want, is based on merit. So it's one of those things. It's like, who do you try to placate? The toothless dog gnawing at your ankle, or the pack of wolves in the woods?
With the short attention span of the American voter right now, it is an eternity until the next election.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to do whatever's expedient now, and they will pivot later and try to give the appearance of being something other than what they are. Right now, it's spend money, gather power, consolidate. That's what they're doing. And if they get a seat on the Supreme Court with somebody who's loyal to their side of the cause, that's perfect for them. Might as well be Kamala, because she'll have less resistance in the Senate as a former senator than many of the other people they might try to bring in. They can get her approved. And they're going to have a hell of a hard time bringing in some of the real radicals that they might be thinking of otherwise.
Do you think they will be able to get her approved after the midterms?
No.
I don't know why they would wait for the midterms.
Well, he hasn't fully retired yet, has he?
He's stepping down soon, isn't he?
No, he's stepping down after the term. He's not. He will not be fully stepped down on election day.
Oh.
He'll be in the process of stepping down on election day.
Yeah. So it was just, he was pissed because someone had dropped the news too soon.
Yeah.
Well, they could put her through. No, sorry. I'm just thinking out loud.
This is all
terrible.
If there's even a small red drop, she's not getting through easy. Like, to be completely honest, if there's even a slight shift, I'm not talking full blown red wave, because I don't think there will be one. Mm-hmm. Like, she's not getting through, not easily anyway. They'll drag their feet and all that kind of stuff forever.
The $64 question will be, will guys like Lindsey Graham, who always says, a chief executive should get whoever they want on the Supreme Court, I'll always vote for them unless they're just terribly unqualified. Yeah. And he's held to that. There are 2 or 3 senators who feel that strongly about that and will give Biden their vote. With all the Democrats, that might happen. On the other hand, if the Democrats really are bifurcating right now between the new and old Democrats, for lack of a better term, it would be interesting to see about if the Democrats can even keep it together, or would there be protest votes from people like Manchin and Cinema failing to support Kamala, just seeing the writing on the wall, you know.
I still want to see her cast the vote for herself as the tiebreaker. That
would be fun.
So sweet, because I could totally see Kamala being nominated. I could see there being 50 votes for and 50 votes against, and in my mind, I have this image of her casting the vote for herself, and then that laugh. She's going to cast the vote for herself, and then it's going to be cackle, 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 cackle.
Yeah. My pitties.
It's going to be awesome.
Your little dog, too.
The only thing that would be funnier is if she actually ended up more moderate when she ended up on the...
Oh, she'll be more moderate than a bunch of the people Biden's probably... Well, I'm sorry, Biden's the meat puppet for the deep state that's got its hand up his ass and moving his lips. The people that they have in mind, the ones that think that doesn't matter and all these other new fantastic ideas, I'm sure they've got some truly staggeringly terrible people in mind.
Oh,
and that we'd be better off with Kamala than any of them.
I wish we had Prospero on tonight, because I would love to hear her.
I just say let's nominate Condoleezza Rice. You know, I mean,
that would be awesome.
Said you want a black woman in there.
Yeah.
And she can play the piano real good.
And she likes football.
Yeah.
Make her commissioner of the NBA.
But this is the group of crack top people that we have coming up with decisions. Senator Schumer. Until 1981, this powerful body, the Supreme Court, was all white men. Imagine America wasn't all white men in 1981 forever. Under President Biden and the Senate majority, we're taking historic steps to make the courts look more like the country they serve. Bill, what about Thurgood Marshall? What about
Clarence Thomas?
What about Clarence Thomas? Does he not count?
What about Sotomayor?
Did you take away his black card because you don't approve of? It's like, come on, man. I mean,
Schumer
seriously.
Just keeps like his speech get used for the filibuster. His speech gets used by Cotton against him. Now this crap, because everybody was ragging on him about it. They're like, really? I think there was one person I saw from like Europe who made the joke. It's like, I'm from Europe and I know there's been they're like, I think they said they were from France, and they were like, I'm from France and I knew there was a black person on the Supreme Court, dude. Retire already.
Okay, these people are dumb. Let's talk about something good. Okay, how about something that doesn't suck? A creepy porn lawyer, Michael Avenatti, found guilty of bilking Stormy Daniels out of nearly $300,000 in book proceeds. Yes. Now, let me. I actually remember before the pandemic, with my liberal, very well educated, very smart barbecue buddies, but very progressive, and one of them had this fever dream that Michael Avenatti was such a force for good and so well spoken that he was going to challenge Trump in the election and win.
Oh, I remember when everybody was talking like that.
Everybody was on the Avenatti train, and I'm like, you mean creepy porn lawyer?
Yeah.
that guy?
Don Lemon thought he hung the moon.
So this guy, Avenatti, needless to say, I don't think he lived up to my friend's estimation. We all get it wrong sometimes. God knows I've been disappointed by people more than a few times. But luckily not creepy porn lawyer guy. He forged her name on some papers and had money, $800,000, wire transferred to his account that was part of the proceeds from her book sales. I think it was an advance. And then tried to basically skim $300,000 off the top. But of course, he's her best friend. And Stormy Daniels may be many things, but she did notice the money was missing and got a little pissed off about this. And this is why he's in trouble. Now, to add insult to injury, that's a really stupid thing to do. But as a lawyer, he should know the first rule is you do not represent yourself. He represented himself. He is a moron.
I suspect that he does not have a lot of money. And there were a couple of things that went into the, first of all, a public defender is not going to do anything for him. Public defenders don't do anything for anybody. They fulfill a technical legal requirement that you have representation they say a few things in your behalf, and then they move on after you're found guilty. So Avenatti, in order to have at least an attorney who was interested in his case, had to hire himself because he probably doesn't have access to any of his money right now while they're going through and seeing how much of it he stole from people.
Well, he made a bunch of money off of the whole case with Trump and Stormy Daniels. He'd made money with her before. It's not like he just started practicing law. The idea must be doing something weird with his money to not have enough to hire somebody to defend him in this case.
There's one other thing too, and he probably couldn't get anybody to represent him who he had any respect for. Because let me tell you, attorneys avoid cases like this. There's no winning this case. If you win the case, you get tarred with the Avenatti brush. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he was Michael Avenatti's, lawyer. So he was on Avenatti's side. There is nothing good that can come from defending Avenatti. If you defend him and he loses, you're a loser and you love Avenatti. If you defend him and win, you're still loving Avenatti. It's all bad news. So there you go.
Mm. What kind of stage name is Stormy anyway?
There's a joke there. I'm not even going to try.
Okay.
Not even.
Stormy.
Hi, Sir and Manty.
I have to know, what was Stormy Daniels' birth name? Stormy Daniels.
Yeah, by all means, start searching the internet for Stormy Daniels. This is going to go well.
Her name was Stephanie Gregory Clifford. Her middle name is Gregory.
Stephanie Clifford. That's not a terrible name for an actress, but Stormy. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it would abbreviate to Step Cliff. Just saying.
All right. Well, he's terrible.
Karma.
I'm glad that she. I'm glad that she managed to prevail in this whole thing, because bilking Stormy Daniels out of $300,000 is pretty low, even for a creepy porn lawyer.
Oh my God.
I know. So that's a good thing. So this is a good thing.
Yay.
No. No. Where are you? Okay, we'll just bring this up separately. EU to classify some nuclear power plants as sustainable. It's
Shocker.
as if they've realized that trying to run a grid off of nothing but wind and solar is really, really hard.
Yep. And interesting that Germany is protesting that. I don't know.
They've probably been told to protest that.
Yeah, nuclear power and natural gas as environmentally sustainable economic activities, despite opposition from some anti-nuclear member states, including Germany, because they don't want to freeze in the dark. And, as a Texan, I can tell you, wind and is not always there. You can't always get what you need from wind power and any of the sustainables, the quote unquote sustainables that are not nuclear or not burning hydrocarbons. Our problem is not that we can't get the energy. Our problem is we can't store the energy. What we need is a battery that can store really huge amounts of energy, really gigantic amounts of energy, and have it be available generally. It's
with a long life cycle. We have things that will store a lot of power, but unfortunately they start to wear out after a few thousand uses.
Exactly.
The molten sulfur batteries actually fit the bill when you're talking about battery storage at scale. And that's a technology that's getting to be pretty mature. So I think we may actually see something like that soon.
That's the problem we need to solve.
Yeah.
You know, the rest of the stuff, how you get the energy, if you can store the energy, it won't matter how you produce the energy. It really won't.
You still need a backup. I mean, the burst generators that they have, you know, so for when basically peak load generators, when things don't go the way you expect for whatever reason, it's nice to have a giant turbine connected to a generator with a natural gas source. And they tend to be, because they're these turbine engines, they are not the cleanest things environmentally, but you only use these. This is basically plan C. This is the thing you keep around to make sure that the lights don't go out ever.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with having those things.
This is plan B's plan B.
Yes. Belt, suspenders, and then backup suspenders.
Right. Exactly.
Isn't
Go
there
ahead,
a
Serenity.
type, like it's a metal or something like that? It's one of the Oriums or something like that. Like, if you use it in its first form, as it degrades, it turns into another form, and then you can take that form and use it to also do nuclear. Like, isn't there one that, like, it's a double stage degrade, and then after that second stage degradation, then it becomes unusable, and then you have to get rid of it? There was one of the Oriums, I think I remember.
So there are a bunch of things like thorium, which if you start the process with a small amount of plutonium, once the process gets going, it becomes sort of self-sustaining, and you don't need that type of high-grade fissile material. Okay. And the beautiful thing about a thorium reactor is you can burn pretty much anything in it. Got some high-level nuclear waste that you don't feel like storing in Yucca Mountain? Throw it in the reactor. It's more than happy to just gobble up all kinds of things that we don't want to store.
Yeah,
all kinds of nasty things. Yeah. So not only can you make power from things other than uranium, but you can actually get rid of high-level nuclear waste. Yeah.
Okay.
So nuclear is great. And you get into, it is absolutely true that in terms of traditional light water reactors, you will just run out of uranium after 1,000 or so years, right? But that's where breeder reactors come in. And any kind of breeder reactor essentially makes fuel out of things that aren't fuel while it runs.
Okay.
Effectively making it a sustainable, environmentally friendly power source. That's how you can say that it's sustainable.
It's
because
a
the amount of fuel is
motion machine, Harry.
That's what I was thinking, but I didn't.
The amount of fuel is effectively unlimited if we use thorium reactors.
Yeah, sorry, energy loss is a thing. So
well, the sun will gobble up the earth at a certain point. As long as you don't run out of power before that happens, you win.
Yes.
You know,
all said.
Yeah. So
yeah,
let's see. Nobody
have plans for a getaway. Just saying.
So this is just a silly little thing because I was looking for something, and every now and then I run into something wholesome, and I saw this thing here at the Kono store, and it's the Bob Ross desk mat, and I'm like, you know, the ongoing love for Bob Ross is so wholesome and so wonderful. You know, you look at people, and people can just be shitty and terrible, but man, people love Bob Ross, don't they?
Bob Ross, awesome? Mr. Rogers, and Steve Irwin.
I don't know. Is Steve Irwin really in that classification?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Well, at least on the internet.
Among young people, I think.
Yeah.
He was their first person they felt sentimental about who they lost young.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of that sentiment, because I get a lot of that from my grandkids. Steve Irwin was God.
Yeah, because I hear about this and I think he was that guy that let that stingray pierce him through the heart, right? You know, like that was dumb.
I'm gonna swim with the stingrays because that's safe.
Well, I mean, when you consider he ran around with alligators, you didn't think he'd probably die by a stingray.
Yeah, no, it's nice to me that
is an 8-inch knife, even if it's on the spine of a stingray. Sorry, go ahead.
In such a shitty world that, you know, there are a few sort of people that we actually hold up as being almost like modern day saints.
Yeah.
People look at Bob Ross and think, yeah, I wish I could be more like that guy. I wish I could be quiet and peaceful and calm and okay with the universe. I'm afraid to look at chat.
Pro.
Chat's probably yelling at me saying, no, screw you, old man.
No. They're not.
You know, he was like a bucket-topped senior petty officer senior non-commissioned officer in the Air Force. In the Air Force, did you know that? He was an Air Force lifer.
Mm-hmm.
and he was a Theory X manager, kick ass, take names, let God sort him out later guy. And he got out of that and evidently went through a real personality change, really mellowed out, and wanted to share his love for art with everybody. That really, he was a genuine guy, very interesting guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's outstanding.
Joined in 61 at 18, spent 20 years, went to the rank of Master Sergeant, and then he was also First Sergeant in Basic Clinic at Gilson Air Force Base in Alaska.
Well, here's something else wonderful. Who sent this to me? Is this you, Functional, that sent me this?
No, I think it was Sora.
Might have been Geodes because I know it wasn't me.
The Canadian Patriot. Let's see.
Or it might have been Sora.
Let's make sure that everything's muted because I don't want to get copy struck. But here's a guy riding a buffalo in the snow carrying a Canadian flag. Does this make you feel good?
And I'm proud to be a Canadian.
Yeah, this is pretty damn Canadian. I think
Moose would have been more Canadian.
I don't think you can ride a moose, but then
You
again, I don't
can,
think you can
can't
ride a
ride it.
buffalo.
You cannot ride it.
You
You
can't.
usually can't ride a buffalo either. That's a heavily trained buffalo. It's a very
Or heavily
sedated
sedated.
buffalo.
Yeah.
No, he's not sedated. People
no,
cows
there's-
before.
There's quite a few over in Calgary.
Mhm.
Bison farms where they've semi-domesticated them.
Yeah, same down here.
They're
There's
delicious.
There's a buffalo
they
farm
are.
in
I
northern
love
West
bison.
Virginia where they've.
And apparently they're they'd make me fear if that was charging at me.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been charged by a moose? Because I've actually had the experience.
No.
I live to tell the tale. It's outside Yellowstone Park. That's not something you ever forget. I was a very active camera guy. I had my little SLR out, my Konica. I was changing lenses. I'd seen the moose, and I didn't see that the moose had walked up. And I turned around and looked at the moose, and I raised my camera. And the moose looked at me and said in English, "Problem?" And I said, "No, sir, no problem at all," and backed away carefully through the trees. That moose took off at me and ran past me, and I ran 90 degrees away from the way that he charged toward the tent, toward where there were other people, and the moose just glared at me and then wandered off. It scared the shit out of me. Those things are
big bull?
gigantic. Yeah, it was a relatively young bull. Yeah, young bull moose.
But then they're still huge.
Yeah, he had his full rack. I mean, it was a scary fucking experience. It really, I was more scared after that than when I had my parachute malfunction. I really was. I really thought I'm screwed. This animal is
going to run me through,
hurt me or kill me. And people get killed by moose. It happens every year. 2-3 people get killed by moose. Anyway.
Damn.
Yeah. So riding moose, no, I would say no.
This is pretty close to the Royal Canadian Kilted Yaxman skit from is it Ren and Stimpy?
Yeah. You're talking about, yeah.
Man, the more art imitates life, the more scared I get.
That's a young buffalo.
Life imitates art.
Buffalo. That's a young bison though, because they're normally bigger than that.
Yeah, you can tell in the shoulders he's not.
Oh yeah.
Up there.
They're not fun to have stare down, especially when you learn they're nearsighted.
Yeah. See, there's a moose right there. Yeah. See, that's what those bastards do.
Orcas eat moose.
35-year-old SkepTock right there.
Not only that, but they can run over younger trees.
Oh yeah.
They'll just. That's one of the telltale signs that there's a bull in the area. Is you'll see the horn markings on the trees.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody expects the telltale moose.
People don't realize that. If you can go back to that picture, Harry.
Sure.
She's about to say, "Put him over there."
Yeah. This is something that I posted in the Minions Canada channel because I'm a troublemaker. I think I said this is what Canadian history is like in my imagination.
I mean, you're not far
No,
off.
those are our romance novels.
Yeah. Tell by the shirt open. Take me, Moose.
There's always a moose.
Yes, there's always
Hey,
a moose.
you guys have the coronavirus. We can have moose.
Okay, so
Moose.
enough jocularity for one day here.
Shish kebab for dinner, honey.
So this is something that's terrible. I brought this up in the past. It's a bill that's going to be voted on real soon now called the Earn It Act. And in a nutshell, what the Earn It Act is because we have to protect children, they want to do away with any kind of end-to-end encryption in terms of major services.
That's really the right thing to do.
Yeah, it really is the right thing to do because we don't need computer security.
No.
We need to put backdoors into our encryption so that the government can make sure that you're not, sharing some kind of kitty diddler stuff.
Required, really.
Yeah.
We have to check everyone.
I think that they should just bring back that To Catch a Predator show and call it even. I mean, because that way at least it's entertaining for all of us watching these guys show up and then get nabbed by the police.
Come
And
on
then
in,
toss them
sit
in the
here.
gladiatorial pits.
Yeah, I brought some wine coolers and a pack of condoms. You're 13, right? Woo! It's like, yeah, jail, asshole. That show was terrible.
God.
Was it Chris Hansen?
Yeah, Chris
Yeah.
Hansen, who is, he's a strange guy. I don't care what anybody says. He's a weird guy.
But this is the time where contacting your representative might not be the worst idea. Look into this thing, decide for yourself. I think it's a terrible, terrible, terrible idea because if you think computer security is something that's important, like, all of it, you cannot have something like this set up. You're going to have to find another way to track these assholes down. Not having all of the online services basically scan every file, every communication, just in case. I mean, I get it. Nobody's saying that children aren't important and protecting them isn't important. But this as a solution is not fit for purpose. It's going to cause a lot more problems. Because when you put a backdoor in an encryption technology, you are just asking for bad people to find it and use it.
It will be used.
It will be used. It will be used. It will be abused. And cybersecurity is important because Department of Homeland Security thinks it's important. They have a whole new board of super experts that are going to talk about cybersecurity. Now, we have a bunch of these boards already and a bunch of these processes in place that come up with best practices for how to manage things.
I was just going to ask, why do we need this one?
I don't understand why we need this one, but apparently the Department of Homeland Security wants to have a say in all this stuff.
You guys just don't get it. Joe Biden is a great man. He's creating many, many, many more jobs. Rich, fruitful government jobs. Because they're from the government and they're here to help.
Thank God.
Well, there are so many standards out there for different types of applications, FIPS, and of course, DISA has all kinds of stuff. There's all these things. And of course, this is, which one is this? CISA. Yeah, there's a bunch of these different things where they give guidelines for how to harden systems and things to do. I don't understand how a bunch of high-level people are going to actually roll up their sleeves and do real work. What you need are experts behind the scenes that you don't necessarily, that are in working groups, right? That work in industry. Right. They're from industry. And you get them involved. They already do this. They already do this through CERT and a bunch of other things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the point of this exercise is, but apparently we have to have another board and another commission.
The thing of this is what they're nervous about, what they think they're nervous about, and having ways to always be able to look inside business transactions, for example, or communications that are meant to be kept confidential and secret for whatever reason. What happens is you begin to accumulate reasons why you can use this handy backdoor, things that undeniably are in the public's interest, at least in some rare formulation, that can be made to sound like it's in the public interest to invoke the special requirement to look at these privileged communications to see if X is going on, because that, does something positive for the public. My long-winded point, and I do have one, is that if you put these backdoors in, not only will they be used, they'll be used more and more frequently over time as more and more public good can be discerned by the government, fantasized by the government, and requiring the government to compromise what would normally be privileged or confidential communications. It absolutely compromises the ability for society to function efficiently, creatively, and freely. This really is the sort of thing that puts you under the government thumb. This is one of those insidious things, and it will get worse.
Mhm.
It sounds like a minor thing. Yeah, backdoors, who knows? It really knows what. This is a big deal. This is a much bigger deal than people think it is.
Yeah, and you can't really. I mean, these two stories together make an interesting picture to me, because on the one hand, the government is going to protect kids by putting backdoors into encryption. Terrible idea. On the other hand, we're coming up with a whole new board to come up with recommendations on how not to have our country get hacked. You can't do both of these things at the same time. In fact, the first recommendation of this board should be, hey, don't do this other thing.
Right, exactly. I was just going to say that one problem could solve the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So,
yeah, it's just silly, and I mean, I'd be happy. I mean, if they come up with a bunch of good recommendations, that'd be fine. But a lot of this stuff comes out of places like the CIA and the NSA. Things like SE Linux with multi-level security. There's all kinds of stuff you can do to make computer systems more secure. And I said FIPS hardening and a lot of other things. There's, I mean, well, you don't want to hear me talk about security, but there are things you can do with Ansible to basically apply security hardening to systems. You don't even have to know what you're doing. You just go, I can type real good. And then you just type the one line of thing and it just does it. It just does it for you. So they're already supplying people with all kinds of tools to do this sort of stuff. But fine, let's just have another committee, because why not? Let's see.
I actually have a really left field question for you, Harry.
Sure.
How long do you think it will be before the administration, before the United States outlaws cryptocurrency?
Oh, it could happen anytime now.
I think that's coming.
But I don't think they're going to outlaw it completely, much like private citizens couldn't own gold. The banks really like the idea of using some kind of cryptocurrency as a replacement for SWIFT transfers. In terms of banks sending very large amounts of money between each other, they're going to use some kind of cryptocurrency.
Or something
it's just much better
based
than
on a
wire
blockchain.
transfers.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
for private individuals,
yes,
it's possible.
I think maybe members of the Federal Reserve might have that capability. I think they will try and take that away from the private citizen.
I don't really follow crypto stuff all that carefully. It's not really my thing. I know about how people do crypto mining, and I've looked at the power and computation needs for it. I've looked at sort of the technical aspects of it, but in terms of the keeping up to date on crypto news, the reason I don't bring it up on the show is because I don't really feel qualified to talk about it that much. It's not really my thing. You kind of have to be a specialist in this to really know what's going on. But I've heard the rumors that the Fed is seriously considering doing something about crypto. They don't like it that somebody can affect the money supply who isn't them.
Well, that's the truth. Not just affect the money supply, skate past it.
No, but changing the size of the money supply is what I'm
Yes.
talking about. Not just supplying currency that they didn't issue, but overall, actually increasing, effectively increasing, M1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You know that technically, you're absolutely right. Technically, cryptocurrencies are very inflationary potentially.
Mhm.
Because you can have once you begin to express accrued value in this other currency. This other currency is going to trade differently against the currencies of the world than the dollar does. It already does. But look at Bitcoin. And what they hate even more, what governments hate even more, is seeing cryptocurrencies hold up better against things like the euro and the yuan better than the dollar does.
Stop printing dollars all damn time.
Well, and you'll never see it printed you'll never see it mentioned on CNN. But our effective real rate of inflation, our real rate of inflation right now is probably about 14 or 15%, depending on whose numbers you looked at. I was looking at some numbers computed by some economists. And when you put the things in the mix of what the price increases to things that people need every day, what Ma and Pa Kettle, Mr. and Mrs. America go out and buy every day. Our real inflation level is 15%. It means when you have if you have $100 in the bank at January 1st, December 31st, you only have $85 in the bank, even if you didn't add or subtract any money to that, and the bank didn't take a fee. You only have 85% of the value of that. That is not an inflation rate that a country with the size of currency and transaction base that we have can sustain. That will hurt us, and it will hurt us for a very long time. It'll make it very hard to grow anything in the economy. You'll be in a period of very, very slow growth or no growth. This is what happened to Japan for 10 years during the 90s. This was Japan in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
We're fixing to do it, idiots.
Oh, yeah. Well, you just don't understand how smart these people are.
Yeah.
So, Serenity, did you find out any more about this thing? EPA restores rule to limit power plant mercury emissions. And specifically, the Biden administration is making things safer because nobody wants mercury, right? Mercury's bad. It's bad for children. It makes them blue. So you don't want that. But this article, I hate this article because it raises more questions than it actually answers questions. Because it says here, in another reversal of Trump era action, the EPA said Monday it will resume enforcement of a rule that limits power plant emissions of mercury and other hazardous pollutants. Okay, so the question is this a good rule or a bad rule? Because how much mercury is too much? I mean, is it something that protects people, or is it something that's just designed to make it difficult and annoying to produce power with coal? Therefore, it's just a backdoor way of banning coal, which they couldn't do otherwise. I'm confused. There's a West Virginia court case going on related to this?
Yeah, Arch.
Okay.
Arch is pushing back because the thing is like, at least in West Virginia, I think 90% of our coal plants have already gone into what's called it's not called direct injection, it's something similar for the coal plants. So it cuts down already on the mercury anyway. And this was done back during when Obama first did it in 2012. Mm-hmm. And even before then, most of the plants were going to it anyway because it was just a more efficient way to run coal. Ironically, most of the plants that haven't fully converted to it are plants that are near major cities. Like, I think Houston was on the list. I know that Chicago is now on the list. Mostly, it's a restriction for something that's already in place, that they're not going to backtrack, and they haven't backtracked. because it just doesn't make sense to put all that money into converting and then to deconvert, because you're going to have to pay money to deconvert. So there's no point.
Yeah, I hate this article. It starts talking about all sorts of things that have nothing to do with the article, right? They
Yeah.
start talking about solar farms in California and wind farms off the East Coast, which has nothing to do with anything here. The question is, should the EPA be reintroducing this thing? Is it a real environmental thing that has real impact on people's lives? Or is it just punitive bullshit because they're trying to stop people from using coal? That's what I want to know. And this article gets me no closer to understanding that at all.
Wouldn't you have to know what a harmful level of mercury release per unit volume or weight or mass of coal would be, Harry?
Yeah, you would need to know what the average, basically how much of a dose human beings would need to get for this to be a problem.
Right.
Because saying there's mercury in something, you can go to, in Silicon Valley, there's a place called Almaden Quicksilver Mine. And it's a great park, beautiful park. All of the soil is very red because it was where they used to mine cinnabar. So you have this beautiful wildflowers. It's a lovely, lovely park. Now, just going there, you're going to pick up traces of mercury. Is it dangerous? No, you can go to the park all you want. But there's mercury in the park. Should we just close the park? Because,
Right.
I mean, how far do we go with this sort of thing? We don't have
you
fabs
inhale
in
mercury.
Silicon. Well, you don't have fabs in Silicon Valley anymore because literally the water coming out of the fab has to be cleaner than the water coming out of the tap. This is insane. This is why you don't
Wow.
have fabs in Silicon Valley anymore.
You get rid of manufacturing because they want to please themselves.
Yeah, and you
Right.
heard me talk about Moffett Field last week, and I said,
Yeah.
that the planes flying over were basically just raining lead on the adjacent communities. So here, Sunnyvale, Mountain View, Palo Alto, enjoy a nice dosing of lead because the aviation fuel had lead in it for a lot longer than the automobile fuel.
Aviation gasoline. Yeah.
And that's bad, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
bad. So they got rid of the lead in the gasoline. I'm totally in favor of that because you could measure the lead building up in people's bodily tissues. I don't know what to make of this mercury thing. This is just terrible journalism, AP.
You're missing the critical thing. You don't know how much is harmful, and is this acting on levels that would otherwise be harmful if they did not act? And it's easy enough to, I could enact the labor, as they say.
Yeah, if you had a
and go
couple
find
hours
that
to
out
burn,
myself.
you could figure this out.
I could figure this out totally, and have, it's nothing more than arithmetic. It's not even math, hardly.
Well, the
Anyway,
wind
where do we
patterns and
start?
stuff are an issue. You just have to put the stacks up higher and higher.
Yeah,
No, but this is stupid.
that was what the Clean Air Act did.
as
back
good a
in the
job
day.
as the AP did hammering that guy about Ukraine. They
Mhm.
did a really poor job on this because this is literally an article that when you get through reading it, you're actually dumber than when you started.
Right. Yep,
This
I agree.
is like the opposite of news.
This is news suck.
Yeah, well, speaking of things that suck, there was this thing that was tweeted by LBC. Human rights lawyer don't care reveals that the United Nations is actively sharing the names of Uyghur dissidents with the Chinese government. Come again? Is the United Nations just a wholly owned subsidiary of China at this point? We're still paying the bulk of their budget, but it seems
Oh,
like
yeah.
they're taking our contribution for granted and they just really like those sweet Chinese yuan.
Yeah. It's a huge problem. Biden's relationship with the Chinese government is a huge problem. Can you imagine Ronald Reagan being confronted with something like this? He would have gone ballistic.
He would have walked into the Security Council personally and
Yes,
said, cut this shit out now.
that's it.
Yeah. I'm not sure there's a whole lot of room for discussion here. Functional,
It's
do you want to comment
It's
on this?
heartbreaking.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, because it's obviously just bad. I mean, what do you say? Serenity.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things that no one cares. I mean, there's literally the case of like there's a skier who grew up here in America who switched to China for some reason, probably because they're paying her more, threatened her family or something like that. And she's willingly talking about how amazing China is and all that kind of stuff at the Beijing Winter Games. Like, people are greedy. They don't care. The UN's been useless for years. They will continue to be more and more useless. This is not surprising at all.
Well, it's surprising to me because this is so bad that I actually have trouble imagining that this is really happening. I mean, isn't this just so far beyond the pale that am I the only one having trouble believing this? Because this seems like a bit much even for the clown world we live in today.
You mean you think that this is not happening?
No, I believe that it's happening based on the sources. I think these people probably are saying something that's true. But in my own mind, I'm just like, I'm just kind of wondering how the hell we got here.
I mean, we got here because, I mean, the UN's been allowed to to do stuff for far too long. Like, they've been caught in how many underage sex scandals? Like, this is just, like, that's the reason why the Uyghur thing doesn't surprise me. Because, of course, these like the people who they're like the Catholic Church. And if there's any Catholics here, I'm sorry, but let's face facts. They are like the Catholic Church. In the words of Robin Williams, they just move them around, just move them around. And that's all they do. They don't really go after these people.
Well, the Catholic Church is a huge organization. You know, it's a place where bad actors can hide in the.
Well, I mean, the UN's the same way in that sense.
Well, remember at the beginning of the pandemic, there was an interview with this guy, and they were talking about the coup, and somebody brought up the question of, well, what about Taiwan? And he's like, oh, I'm going through a tunnel, can't hear you, you know, and he did that thing, you know, where he basically pretended he couldn't hear them and said, oh, you know, well, you know, let's move on, and you know, that was. This UN health guy would not acknowledge the existence of a sovereign nation. And the only reason that would happen would be because he's basically China's bitch.
Yeah, because
that's worse than trust me, bro.
Yeah. But it has a lot to do with the fact that right now China is still able to fake that it has money. They're having massive food shortages right now, and it's getting worse.
Well, I've seen those reports, but I don't know how much hard data we have. I mean, because it just sort of leaks out.
Well, that's the problem, is that the fact that it's leaked out tells you that the problem's huge.
People do lie on the internet. Sorry, I don't mean to keep interrupting you, but that's just a point worth putting out. I mean, the thing is, there are unsubstantiated reports of food shortages in China. Is that a fair statement?
I mean, if you mean the videos of them literally showing people eating junk.
Well, that's just Russian misinformation.
But the thing is that, okay, so there's just small reports. There was just a small report about a virus at one point, allegedly, in October of 2019. And that came to fruition. I'm
not saying that you're wrong. I'm simply saying that how much do we have in terms of proof? I'm just trying to figure out how we would classify this as 100% confirmed, suspicious, anecdotal, you know, where are we in the sort of the spectrum of facts at this point?
The only reports that have come out are basically China's hoarding corn reserves and rice, as well as the wheat supply. They do that historically when the groundwater is too polluted to do anything with. And they've destroyed a good portion of, allegedly, of their arable land. That's allegedly the reason why they're having the food shortage issues, is because they've literally toxified their country to the point that it can't produce as well as it should be able to.
Well, they do some pretty terrible things to their farmland.
Oh, yeah.
One of those things I heard years ago is they were actually taking medical waste, including low-grade nuclear waste, and they have to put it somewhere. So they say, here, farmers, just spread this on your field. What is it? It doesn't worry about it. It's the topsoil. Just get rid of it. And so they've
Yeah.
got a thin dusting of crap in a lot of places where they really should. They have not been paying attention to their environmental stuff like they should.
And the thing is like they're still having astronomical floods. They're having all these problems, and now they have to, put it simply because of the games, play a basically save face and make it look like they're not. Like, there was a video of, I think it was either an American or a Canadian skier going through their facial recognition stuff, but they had a full mask on and a hat. And it would show a picture of them as they walked through it. Now, there's a lot of people saying that most likely their coats have RFIDs in them, which I agree with. And it's meant to just scare people, to make them think they're being watched more than what they are. But it's China's getting desperate, and that's when things get dangerous.
It's going to be an interesting 2022, isn't it? Because everything is going to get clearer over time.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, who knows? And this is purely speculation. This is a alleged me saying this out the top of my head. Minions of the Zoo has no bearing on this. But I mean, who knows? The big World War III thing may not involve America directly. It may be China and Russia going at each other.
Well, I mean, it could be Russia and India. It could be China and India. It could be.
Yeah,
There's so many people just standing around pointing guns at each other in that region of the world. I was curious about Serenity brought up Chinese weather. I understand a little bit about the oscillation in the Indian Ocean and what it does to Australian weather and Indian weather. I don't know if that's tied in with Chinese weather predominantly, or if that's a completely different cycle.
It's not so much completely different, because technically they're all connected, but it does affect a lot of the rain issues they've been having.
Well, China's got like a huge Pacific coast. You know, they've got all this other stuff going on. So I just don't know. I don't feel like I understand Chinese weather all that well, is what I'm trying to say, clumsily.
Well, it's not so much the weather's not what's screwing them. The weather is now screwing them because they've messed with the environment too much. And it's not in the sense of pollution, although pollution is having a hand in it. Mm-hmm. It's the fact that they've dammed so much stuff. But at the same time, this is China grade build quality. So dams are failing, levees are failing, floodwaters are rushing in. They're flushing into places that in some cases haven't had floodwaters in 50 years. They're destroying that environment. They're continuing furthering down. They're taking the topsoil off. There's some cases of reports and alleged rumors of entire villages getting wiped out because no one knew the dam broke until the water was on top of them, and a good portion of their food went away that way because a lot of their rice fields went away.
Oops.
All right. Let's talk about it. Weather in China is complicated.
Weather by nature, yeah.
Yeah, but it might be especially complicated in China, because I'm imagining
it is, because they differ from region. The climates in China differ from, by regions, because of, the way that China topographically is laid out. If you go south of that big mountain range that runs east-west, non-King Mountains, non-Lings, whatever they are. Anyway, it rains like a son of a bitch, and the temperature is high, all year round. If you go down into the river valleys in the central part, that's like it's like living in Kentucky. I've heard there are 4 distinct seasons, but in the northern part of China, particularly east, the summer is quite short, and every day is sunshiny, and winter is really long and really cold. And up in northwest China, you get very little precipitation, much less than you get in like the southwest China or the low latitudes. I mean, if you study the weather of China and that part of the world, you can't make these you can't make very many sweeping statements about all of China, because China is so big, it has different weather systems in different regions in the country.
And chat's on fire. It's just
Well,
I finally got caught up with
That's
chat.
true. That is absolutely what I just said is true.
Yeah.
Well, it's very true what Dante has also said in chat. Basically, that's what's happening. Like, it's not 100% the entirety of Western China and not 100% the eastern part of China, but good swaths of it. Western China is turning into a desert, and good swaths of eastern China is just flooding.
Yeah. Mongolia, good rock farming there. It's
Ironically, Mongolia is not doing too bad from everything I've heard. Like they're used to being a very hardy people and country anyway.
oh hell yes.
So they can
It's
have
that
a
good you're living.
Hey man,
Yeah.
it's
Have a
that good
big-
old fashioned mare milk. That's
yeah,
all
if
it
you're
is.
when how was it Ewan McGregor and Charlie Borman did their
Yeah.
around the world thing. That was a great thing with them on the
Oh, it
adventure
was
touring
amazing.
bikes.
Oh,
They're
it was awesome.
they're stopping off in Mongolia, and what was it they gave them like a huge bowl of like testicles and yak milk or something?
I think
You
it's
are
fermented-
our special guest. Have the bowl of testicles because
it
that's
was
just like
fermented
mountain
mare's
oysters.
milk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. What's
and,
second prize? Huh?
Eh.
You know, a long time ago when my dad was being a lumberjack, he decided he didn't like working inside. My dad came home from one of his, he was away for a few days at a time doing this lumberjack thing, and he brought back a plate of mountain oysters. And so he had them on this plate with saran wrap over the top of them, and then just because he got in late. And then essentially my mom woke up and opened the refrigerator and had what looked like a plate of eyeballs kind of staring back at her.
Mm-hmm.
She had a bit of a reaction. Because, nobody expects a plate of testicles when they open the
Well, yeah.
refrigerator door. I mean, unless you live in a yurt. Let me
exactly.
see. People are mad at Jeff Bezos because he's successful for giving things to them that they want.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. He's having a major yacht built.
Yeah,
I really
so-
don't care.
Yeah, so basically he's having this $500 million mega yacht built
Yeah.
That's just-
in this Dutch port. And in order to get his mega yacht, which $500 million yacht, can you think about all the people that have had jobs doing fine woodworking and shipbuilding and, electricians, all the different people that have been employed because of this project. But in pure AOC-like fashion, these people are like, well, we've got our historic bridge, and they're going to have to sort of take it apart partially to get the mega yacht through and then put it back together again. And he's willing to pay for all that. But they're like, no, he's an asshole. And just because he's rich, we shouldn't take our monument apart.
Well,
This
it's
is
like
pure AOC type
their
thinking.
monument about and understand that first of all, that the Netherlands is like Venice, but the whole country is that. They have canals everywhere. They have bridges everywhere. They have historic bridges everywhere.
Mhm.
This is such bullshit.
Yeah, this is
this-
my
this-
favorite bridge, though, Skep.
Yeah, this is absolutely dog in the manger behavior.
No, it's stupid. I want to get to Serenity because I think
What-
she was trying to say something. But
Sorry.
I want to point out that they took the bridge apart just a few years ago to do some work on it, and what they're saying is, well, they told us they weren't going to take it apart again.
Oh,
It's like
Lord.
that ship has sailed, guys. We already know
Literally.
we can take the bridge apart when we need to, and if employing all these people by building a $500 million yacht for some idiot who's willing to buy a $500 million yacht, it isn't a plus for you. It's like, isn't that reason enough to, you're just being stupid.
Well, I mean, one, he's not having it built, as we were just discussing, in China, so it's actually going to probably still work.
Yeah.
Two, most of his, unless he brings his staff with him, like full like chef and everything like that, like even the lower like people who do the maintenance stuff, he's going to keep people employed. But people are actually talking about throwing eggs on the boat.
So stupid.
And I'm like, okay, I understand you can sit there and go, wow, tiny penis, man. Sure, fine. That's absolutely fine. This man has given you something that all of us use.
Yeah.
Unless you live in the backwater of North Korea, every single person on this planet has somehow either, at least by minimum of 6 degrees of separation, used or gotten something from Amazon.
Okay, I missed this part. I watched a series of videos about this, but I only skimmed this article. I actually did do my homework, but I missed this part of this article. In addition to the mega yacht,
Sorry,
the Amazon founder, who is currently worth $176 billion, has reportedly commissioned a second, smaller support yacht that will include its own helipad.
Yeah, that's
I need to have a backup.
Gotta have a backup for the backup for the backup.
No, this support yacht is probably where he's going to keep all of the staff and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
you're not spending the night on the good yacht.
I'm
You
gonna
get
walk
to
around
you
naked.
get to go report over to the support yacht. That's where you basically play dice or something. Whatever you peons do in your off time.
But
Man,
but it's
I'll-
still that whole thing of like, just let the man spend his money. He's not.
Yeah, let
doing,
him produce jobs.
like,
why
get
not?
over yourselves.
Go ahead, Skep.
No, what he's doing is he's a wealth creation machine.
Yeah.
You know, when you do this kind of stuff, you light off a big chunk of a local economy.
Mhm.
This is the stuff. This is the amazing, the magic invisible hand of the market, creating wealth where there was none, and it is the accumulated trust of people in the exchange of value. That's basically what wealth actually is, and he creates a shit ton of it in doing this stuff, and these idiots protest it. I can't even.
No, it's beyond AOC level of stupid. AOC
Yeah.
just stopped an Amazon facility from showing up that had, 6-figure incomes for the people working there.
33,000 jobs.
Yeah, she just lit those jobs on fire because she's a strong, powerful something, right?
You
but
can
this
find
is
people in her district, and I've heard them, and they say, "Oh, they're glad she drove them away."
yeah, they're idiots. So you've got
Absolutely.
one of the richest people in the world on any given day, the richest, second richest, third richest, but rich, having the biggest, most splendid personal yacht of all time made in your area, and you're saying that you're going to make it difficult for him to get his yacht out of the boat building yard. So where you could have this huge thing going through, and then all the other billionaires trying to keep up saying, hey, I want my yacht built in the same place as Jeff Bezos's yacht, because that's where the good ones come from. Instead, you want to create a hostile atmosphere where it's like, I may or may not be able to get my yacht out to sea if I get it built there. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's smart thinking, guys. That's
Or
really
maybe
bright.
break up the yacht building industry in that area and send all those craftsmen to other places. That'd be smart, wouldn't it?
No, this is just stupid, and I hate it.
Yeah, me too.
Let's see. So we're running a little short on time. I'm going to skip the next two things. We don't need to spend a lot of time talking about this, but be afraid, everybody. Super AIDS is here. Yay. It's 3.5 to 5.5 times the viral load. So when you get it, you become sick and your life sucks faster. So early
Sweet.
detection is important, and be careful what you do with your penis. There, super AIDS.
Don't stick your dick in crazy or
Yes.
diseased.
And if you're in California, it's not a felony anymore. So good luck with that.
Well, it's not a felony to withhold information. So if you're HIV positive in California, you can have unprotected sex with somebody and not disclose that you have HIV. And at most, I think it's a misdemeanor.
It's
Yep,
a misdemeanor. That's exactly what it is.
Because that
It's a
seems completely appropriate. But
Class C misdemeanor.
I'm not going to talk about chin diapers now as much as I might want. I wanted to show this to you, Skep, because I thought this might amuse you. It is a video from the United States Navy from the 1967 called How to
Vic-
Succeed with Brunettes. Have you seen this?
Victory at Sea. I don't know if I've seen this one. It started up, and I'll tell you.
Let's just sample a
one I've
little
seen.
of this fine movie. This is our penis news, by the way. Wait, can you hear it?
No. Oh,
Yes or no?
no, cannot hear it.
Okay. Let me. Oh,
For
yeah.
sure.
Let's unmute that. Try this again.
Now we can hear it.
Catchy. So if you're a naval officer, this is how to succeed with brunettes. Because this is what the Navy teaches you.
How to succeed in business, or with brunettes, or blondes. They're all important missions, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Well, here's one way to tackle the brunette problem.
I've never
See
seen
what you think.
Yeah.
First of all, be late. That'll show her you're a busy, important person, that you're not too interested in her. Play hard to get. After all, you're worth waiting for.
He's an
This will make a
E4.
great first impression.
Yeah.
Medical corpsman.
He's going to make a great first impression.
Then, laugh it off. Apologize? Oh, come on, don't be a square. Okay, now the topper.
Oh, he's
Show
a
her
striker.
what a sense of
He's,
humor you
he's
have
not
by
even a
holding
petty
your
officer.
coat
He's
just
an
a little bit too
He's an
high.
E2.
So are you finding any of these tips helpful?
Not so far, no.
Okay. I'm sorry. Well, maybe it'll get more helpful in a moment.
That's right. Next, be masterful, protective. Grasp her arm firmly and steer her down those steps to the car. She can see that you're the aggressive masculine type. What are you doing?
You're
Open the
right.
door? You'll spoil your image.
Get in.
Oh,
And over.
that's better. Sure, treat her as an equal. Women like that.
Yeah.
Besides, if
Treat her as an equal.
The door will close when I start the car.
Treat her as an equal. Women like that. So this is 1967. This whole thing is just absolutely just terrible. I'm not going to play all 16 minutes of it.
I never saw this. I'm totally gonna look this up.
Yeah, so they show how to do do introductions and things.
should have checked it anyway. Oh, yes. Make sure you're seated so you can see what's going on, too. Makes for
Yeah.
a much more interesting evening.
And
Now,
then
here's perfect opportunity to demonstrate your independence.
here we go. Here comes a senior
Remain
officer.
seated. After all, it's not during working hours, and you are doing him a favor by presenting your date to him.
Wait, stop it there for a second. Let me look at something real quick here. All right. Now this guy is a commander. Okay. This guy is a commander. He's an 05. It's a senior officer. He's a company grade officer. He's our field grade officer. He comes over to where an E2 is sitting and is horsing around with him.
Yeah.
That never happened. That has never happened in the history of the Navy.
No,
Trust
it
me when
hasn't.
I tell you, unless they are blood relatives, this isn't happening.
Yeah, okay. So this is part of the alternative history. Let's see. Then he goes back in and sort of shows like how you're supposed to do it. You know, I mean, if you're a square, but this goes on for like a long damn time.
Ah,
So it's all the ins and outs of how to have a date or not have a date if you're
At
a Navy
OCS
officer.
you at OCS you do sit through films that are this cringeworthy when they teach you how you're supposed to eat. They teach you why the salad fork is on the outside. You have to sit through those things, the dining in videos, but
Mhm.
and those are pretty cringe. But this is psychotic.
This is pretty good. Here we go. Oh, sorry. Was functional? Is that you?
Yeah, can we see the part where they go over when it's okay to hit a woman?
You mean the whole rule of thumb nonsense? Yeah, this isn't memory TV. This is the Navy.
I know. Just joking.
Here we go.
Small gathering in a home or officers' club. Uh-oh. I have a feeling we're going to see anything but the right way to do things.
This guy's a good
Anyway,
guy.
the necessity for making and acknowledging introductions occurs frequently. It should be done
Man, I love
correctly,
that wood paneling.
but I wouldn't bet on it in this case.
Mrs. Brewer, I'd like you to meet Mary Jackson and Midshipman Williams.
Perfect introduction. Man presented to lady. Looks
Yeah.
as
Wait,
though he's going
he's
to
a
wring her hand off,
midshipman?
doesn't it?
Yeah.
And who knows whether she wanted to shake hands or not.
Why
Of
is he
course, she
wearing
had
a
no
rape
choice.
badge?
His
No,
hand was
he's
out
not.
quicker than a waiter's in a nightclub.
No, he's not. He's not wearing the right
Like these
uniform.
good-looking women to meet you.
Wait, here
Mary,
comes
this
another
is
officer.
Mr. Pran. Mr. Pran, this is Mary.
How do you do, Mr.
Good evening, Mayor.
Another
What?
fucking commander.
Oh, Mrs. Childs, Mrs. Rohr, like to have you shake hands with the commander. Mrs. Childs, Mrs. Rohr.
Yeah, this guy's got a great naval career in front of him.
Shit.
Congratulations, your next post is ADAC.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I hope you enjoy the ADAC National Forest. You know, a bunch of trees that come up to your shoulder.
Yeah. Anyway,
I love where the
200 years
subtitles
old.
stopped.
let me I'll share this one in the chat for everybody. I just thought this might this might cheer you up a little bit.
Kill me.
Sucker.
Jeez.
I love the next video though. Don't be a sucker.
Oh man, I love these old videos so much.
Yeah,
I know
they're
that
pretty awesome.
maybe I'm the only one. I don't want to torture anybody too much. But
I
Not at
I
all.
love watching the Pathe has an entire like YouTube channel where they show like how like some of the tea, like not the tea itself, but like the teapots are made in England, how they used to be made like in the 1950s in the kilns and how they were hand painted. It was like Wedgwood stuff. Like I love watching those, or like the kitchen of the future by the 1960s standards.
yeah.
Yeah, with that music. Ding, 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 ding.
It's like they had flour in a metal bin over top of the stove, and they're like, "It's there for easy access." I'm like, "We're gonna have to talk about this. That's not what you want to do with flour, there, darlings."
Oh yeah, Keever Dam was asking, why are the comments disabled? Well, I think it's because of people like Skep. I think it's a little late for notes on this particular Navy propaganda film.
Well, I think it's
Why-
probably because YouTube is rated at G, and there was a point with the YouTube algorithm where they went through every video that was rated G and turned the comments off because it was kid air quotes. So they didn't want the children. They didn't want people commenting to children in the comments. That bullshit. But sorry, Skep, go ahead.
I just don't get the reference to midshipman. He's not a midshipman. He's not wearing a midshipman's uniform.
Well, of all the things going on in this thing, that's the detail that's caught your attention.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was very important to me at one time.
Absolutely.
All the uniform stuff, that was a big deal. Anyway, sorry.
Oh, as it's been
And-
explained to me by people who
The
were in the Navy back
fraternization
in
with the commander is inexplicable. All right,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
is that the social scene in the Navy is extremely important to an officer's career.
Yes, it is.
And a lot of these etiquette things are actually were really, really important.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it's knowing how to throw a party is a big deal. Actually, in my I know I have a lot of stupid hobbies like my collection of slide rules. I have a whole bunch of vintage cookbooks, including a bunch from different officers' wives from different branches of the service, because they would put together these things. So I've got all these sort of community cookbooks from different groups in different parts of the country and different officers' things. So it's like recipes on parade. And man, there is some great stuff in there. And I'm not being sarcastic. There's a lot of really great things there. Entertaining was a big deal. And you did not get very far. I mean, well, you did get far. You got to ADAC if you behaved like this idiot.
Well, let me tell you what your first social event is as a young officer in the Navy. This happened to me. And this happened to virtually every naval officer who's ever served and with any seriousness at all. You get a note in the mail. Well, first of all you get the word from somebody that captain's about to invite you over to his house for dinner. Now, on this particular occasion, not dinner, but for hors d'oeuvres, drinks and hors d'oeuvres, and you get an actual engraved invitation from your captain. And I was a junior officer, and me and another junior officer and our wives were invited over to the captain's house from 3 to 5 o'clock. So we had to leave at 5. It says it on there that this party ends at 5. You will leave then. That's the message that you get from that. And you've been briefed on this at OCS. You know this is going to happen. And so for 2 hours, you sit there and have the most uncomfortable conversations known to God or man. And I had a very non-social. He was actually a good officer, but he was very non-social. He was a drip personally, frankly, even though he was pretty good at sea. For a captain, and his wife was just insufferable. And me and this other officer and our wives sat there for 2 hours eating liver hors d'oeuvres. I can't stand the taste of liver. It literally makes me clench up and vomit. And I ate 2 of these goddamn things and these crackers and told Mrs. Hanson what a wonderful time we had, but we really had to run off, at exactly 5 minutes to 5. Oh, well, yeah, thanks for coming by. And, hasty. And I've never felt so relieved as when we escaped from that. I looked at into the eyes of the other ensign, who's even more junior than I was. And he just looked like he was wildly, he looked like a scared rabbit.
Man,
that was unpleasant. Oh, I will never forget that. That was how I spent a very uncomfortable afternoon in November of 1975.
well, it's been a hard week for everybody. Hopefully, that little thing at the end there was as amusing for you as it was for me.
Yes.
So that is the
wonderful.
show. We are basically done. Do you have anything else functional before we go?
Honk.
Honk. Serenity.
Honk. We're just gonna go with honk at this point.
And Skep TM.
I just want to say that I'm proud of Canada. They're really showing me something with this movement, and I'm sorry that more people were killed there than the Civil War.
Oh, on a slight Canada note, Australia started their own convoy. Germany's got one. France reports that the police actually laid down their shields and joined the protesters. So yeah.
Yeah. I wonder how long it's going to take before the mainstream media starts covering this in any kind of depth. And
Not
with that,
working, Klaus. Get over it.
with that,
I mean,
the
it's
zoo
fun.
is closed. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Honk, honk.